Well, hey there, writer. Welcome to the Resilient Writers Radio Show. I'm your host, Rhonda Douglas, and this is the podcast for writers who want to create and sustain a writing life they love. Because, let's face it, the writing life has its ups and downs, and we want to not just write, but also to be able to enjoy the process, so that we'll spend more time with our butt in chair getting those words on the page. This podcast is for writers who love books and everything that goes into the making of them. For writers who want to learn and grow in their craft and improve their writing skills. Writers who want to finish their books and get them out into the world so their ideal readers can enjoy them. Writers who want to spend more time in that flow state. Writers who want to connect with other writers to celebrate and be in community in this crazy roller coaster ride we call the writing life. We are resilient writers. We're writing for the rest of our lives, and we're having a good time doing it. So welcome, writer. I'm so glad you're here. Let's jump right into today's show. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Resilient Writers Radio Show. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm here today with Lori Puma. Lori is a book coach and editor. I think she has a PhD in epidemiology though, also. So yeah, she knows some things. But today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some infographics that Lori has thought through to help us think about basically book structure in different genres. So we're going to talk action, we're going to talk investigation, we're going to talk romance. So welcome, Lori. So glad you're here.
Thank you, Rhonda. I'm so excited to be here and to talk about infographics.
Yeah, fun. So how did this come about? Like, how were you like, you know what we need? We need a visual representation of how books work.
Yeah, so it was a very long and twisted journey, you might guess, based on the fact that I have a PhD in the subject, that looks at health science. And now I edit novels, that there might have been some twisty roads in between. Yeah, so when I first started working with clients, I started out as a StoryGrid editor, and I was really gung-ho about that system, and I was like, okay, I have everything I need to answer all of my clients' questions, and I just didn't have the answers to their questions, so
I'm going to say, I know the StoryGrid system, I've studied the StoryGrid system, it's not my fave, but I think it really works for people who like to know that you know what, there's like a formula.
Well, so I still love the StoryGrid system,
Mhm.
and I also want to acknowledge that it was not created for most of us. It was
Right.
created to help writers who had already gotten an agent, who had
Mhm.
already gotten a traditional publishing deal, and Sean Coyne was trying to, launch those authors into like the best-selling kind of,
Right.
make more money for the publisher. And so like for that, it's still great. But
Yeah.
then there's everybody else. And
Yeah.
I am more interested in everybody else. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so are you. We want to help people get to that level where the story grid might someday help them.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I kind of went on a quest because I, as a scientist, I was like, surely someone else has figured this out.
Yeah.
So I
All right.
read, I've now read over 1,000 novels and several dozen, I think it's like 70 craft books.
Oh yeah.
And I found that actually, no, there are some things that aren't as popular that are really great. And then there are a lot of things that, everybody else, kind of struggles with that just really aren't covered in the craft books. And so the
Yeah.
infographics are one of my ways to kind of fill in that because
Okay.
a lot of what is missing is the managing things simultaneously and how to
Right.
prioritize what's important.
Right. Okay. Well, let's take a look at the first one because you and I are like infographics, and people are like, what are they talking about? So let me share my screen, share the first one, and we'll have you walk us through it, right? So,
Yes. Yeah. And if I don't know if people are still listening, I also sometimes call them story diagrams.
okay. So walk us through this first one, which is for the story that has an action rhythm.
Yeah, and so let me say that I created this one to work for any story where there is a hero who needs to defeat a villain and save a victim. So that means pure action hero plots. It means crime
Hmm.
thrillers. It means, fantasy quests
Hmm.
or, the world is going to be destroyed soon.
Right.
All of those kinds of stories, they are all covered by this. Um,
Hmm.
and so there are 8 panels here. And the first one is that the hero sees the victims and may be one. And the
Okay.
last one is the climax. The hero is going to have some kind of one-on-one confrontation with the villain.
Hmm.
Those 2 panels are pretty much never going to move
Hmm.
in this kind of a story. But the other ones in the middle are going to be a little more malleable, and you can think of each panel as a sequence in your novel. So it's not a single scene, it's like a set of scenes that all lead up to something larger.
Okay. Talk us through the legend down at the bottom here, because that'll help us understand what's going on.
Yes. So we've got our primary hero, your
Hmm.
protagonist.
Hmm.
We've got the main villain or the chief antagonist.
Hmm.
We've got the victim, who is
Or
someone
victim.
who is harmed by what the villain's plan, you
Hmm.
by some aspect of the villain's plan. And then the next 4 things are a set of thermometers. So these
Mm.
represent the level of danger in your story.
Okay.
So the first one is the physical danger. So like the direct threats, somebody says they're going to kill you, then they pull a
Mhm.
knife, that.
Mhm.
And so like every story is going to have
And
an
danger to whom? To the victim, to
danger
the
to
hero,
the hero and
the hero.
sometimes to their allies. Because the next one is the social and reputational danger.
Mhm. Okay.
So that's for things like if your hero is betrayed by someone or somebody that was going to help them is their job is at risk, or they might get a demotion or something like that. The excuse me, those are like the social dangers.
Mhm.
And then the third one is environmental hazards. So that's like, fires, floods,
Okay.
storms, that kind of stuff. And then the last one is institutional or legal. So, like, if your character is arrested, if
Okay.
if their passport is revoked, or anything that takes like an institution that is like restricting their movement or, causing
Yeah.
other kinds of dangers. And
Mm.
I just want to say for all the fantasy and science fiction folks, you
Mhm.
may have additional thermometers. I just did these because they're pretty common
Yeah.
across all kinds of stories, but the number of ones that are relevant to your story can vary. This was just trying to get a representative sample.
The
So
type of threat and the intensity is the level of the different
yeah,
thermometers.
so the type of thread is which of these 4, and then the intensity is like, okay, how high is the color going up the thermometer?
Okay. Great.
So, yes.
And then
And
we have
then
time pressure.
the time pressure, yeah, so you'll see it starts in really in panel 3. It starts with 11 days. And this again was representative. Your story may have totally different. And we don't have the time pressure in panel 1, and we have pay later in panel 2, because usually early in the story, it's not clear what the time limit is going to be.
Mhm.
And often your hero is going to do stuff early in the story that makes their situation worse and creates additional time
Mm.
pressure.
Okay. And then we have health resources and allies. I love this. Okay. This is starting to feel like a video game now.
That is
Like
exactly
the health bar, the resource
the
bar, the allies. Love
analogy
it.
that I
Yeah.
drew it from. Was like, I was like, how do I do this as like a video game so that, and this again is like a representative sample of what you might have, because well, frequently, almost always, you're going to have a health bar for like how much health or injury does your
Mm,
hero have, and then resources, supplies, foods, ammunition,
mm,
anything can go into that. That's pretty much a catch-all. And then allies is who's on their side, who's providing them, with money, with access, with information, who's helping them lug heavy rocks, any of those kinds of things.
mhm. Okay, great. All right, so walk us through these 8 panels.
Yeah, so action stories always start with someone being harmed, and that
Mm,
person is harmed because of the villain's plans, and they were targeted maybe specifically because of who they are, but definitely specific for a specific reason. So, like because they were in a specific location or they meet certain criteria. Like Katniss and
mhm.
Prim are subject to the reaping in the Hunger Games because of
Right.
their age. So
Mhm,
that's what we mean by criteria.
mhm.
And that is always how it starts because that helps set up how powerful your villain is, that they can do this thing where they harm other people's. Like
Mhm,
the opening of Killing Floor, the first Jack Reacher novel, Jack Reacher is arrested, which
mm.
wrongfully for murder, which it like really establishes, oh my gosh, the villain in this story is someone that can wrongfully arrest somebody who just arrived in town for murder. Like that is a
Okay.
lot of power.
Mm, okay.
Yes. And so then in panel two, here, not every hero is going to go through this panel, but this is where some heroes focus on short-term priorities instead of dealing with the villain. So,
Okay.
like in Killing Floor, the Reacher novel, he just wants to get released and leave town. He does
Right.
not care about the problems of some small town in Georgia.
Right.
So um, the villain can do whatever they want during this time because the hero isn't openly doing anything to thwart them.
Right.
They've got another kind of goal. So that's what the target kind of symbolizes.
And
And
the in the meantime, your hero has good health, relatively good resources, and has some allies working with them. And this could be
yes,
one
yeah.
scene, and it
And
could be
that
several scenes.
these are not like prescriptive. This is more of a representative. But usually at this point in the story, they don't have a broken arm or
Right.
they're not completely exhausted yet. They usually have a lot of stuff available to them and often people as well.
Okay.
But in the
And then we're into
next
complications increase. And this looks like our hero is like pow, pow, pow. Like what's going
yes.
on there with those BAM icons?
Yeah, and so this is one where it can sometimes blend with panel two. But basically, this is where everything is getting worse, even though your hero might not realize it or they might not be able to do much about it. So, like in the Hunger Games, Katniss impulsively shoots an arrow through a pig's mouth on the game maker's table, which that earns her the highest pre-game rating ever for the whole games, which puts a target on her back, not just from the other tributes. It
Right.
makes the other game makers take notice of her and make
Right.
sure that they are not going to let her get away with stuff. So
Hmm.
that
So
is
that's
going
why the social thermometer is up a little bit here.
exactly. Yes, because this is often where, there are unexpected consequences to
Mhm.
these this is the problems, there's new obstacles, there's stuff that your hero was like, I didn't intend that to happen, and now I got to
Right.
deal with it.
And it looks like we're racking up a body count. I see 2 victims here now.
Yeah, and again, it kind of varies, like especially in the Hunger Games, we really don't have that until we get to the games.
Mhm.
But in something like Killing Floor, the Jack Reacher novel, this is where Reacher discovers who the murder victim was, and it is actually his brother, which
Oh,
was
God.
like now he is like, wait a minute, I was in the he was in prison with the guy who knew everything that was going on over the weekend, and he didn't ask any questions because he thought that guy's problems weren't his problems. And
Right.
so, then when he gets out, the dude's gone.
Yeah. Okay, so I love this. So now we're also getting a countdown. It's like the timing, the deadline has become clear.
Yeah, and in Killing Floor, it's actually very clear because what he does get from Paul Hubble is that the conspiracy has like I can't remember if it's 10 days or
Okay.
7 days, but it's a certain number of days. By this day, everything will be okay. But before that day, and that's often something that gets established around this
Okay.
time.
And then we have hero commits to plan A, and I can see our thermometers for the physical and the social are starting to rise. What's going on here?
Yeah, so if this is where, there's more physical threats. So
Mm.
when Reacher gets out of jail and tries to track down Paul Hubble for answers, there's another murder victim, and he can't find Hubble, so he assumes he's dead. So that's and there was in that story there was also an assassination attempt in the prison, and sort of like there's a little bit about the conspiracy that gets revealed that makes it clear that there are more people in danger. So that's why the physical is going up, and then the reputational, um, that one, well, usually because your hero is often going to have other kinds of allies
Okay.
at that time who
Yeah,
might.
I can see the ally bar has gone up as well down the
Yeah,
bottom.
right.
Yeah.
Because this is where your hero's gonna commit to some kind of a plan.
Right.
And this is something that's going to lead them into direct confrontation with the villain. So in Killing Floor, Reacher decides to investigate his brother's murder because obviously. And
Yeah.
then in the Hunger Games, Katniss's plan A is to run, hide, and wait for the other tributes to kill each other in the arena. Um, so that is not going to be okay with the game makers,
Yeah.
obviously. So that plan A, it does not have to be something brilliant. It can be something really ordinary because what
Okay.
plan A does is set you up for the next panel,
Okay. Which is plan A fails.
which is plan A fails. And if you take nothing else away from this podcast, take this away that this is what makes a page turner is how that plan fails, right?
Okay.
Because in Killing Floor, Reacher's plan A was track down Paul Hubble for answers. That dude is missing and almost certainly dead. So that plan is not viable. And
Right.
the murder that was discovered when he thought it was actually Hubble and his family that were killed
Okay.
was extremely gruesome. So,
Right.
yes. And like in the Hunger Games, Katniss, she ran and hid for like 2 days, and then the wildfire started.
Yeah.
Right? And then the fireballs started, and
Right.
she gets hit, she gets burned. She cannot go back to the run and hide. The game makers are
Right.
not going to allow that. She has to
Right.
confront the other tributes directly. So that's what
Okay.
you want, is that you want that direct confrontation. Your hero's goal is now in direct
Mhm.
opposition with your villain, and what they have to do next is going to be much more dangerous.
Okay. So now the hero regroups and they commit to the higher risk plan B. And here we have our physical and our social thermometers getting pretty high here at this point.
Yeah, so like in this one, so in the Hunger Games, Katniss allies with Rue, who she's now in danger. Well, everyone is in danger in the Hunger Games, but like,
Mhm.
the careers are going to target Katniss because she is like the number one threat to their
Mm.
winning the games. So anybody associated with her is really at risk. And this path is much more dangerous and more costly. So that's why the little money bags are there. Um, But the hero often does have additional resources, like, Katniss now has Rue's knowledge, and
Right.
that's really valuable. So,
Right. So those additional resources help Plan B initially look like, oh, this is going to work. Yeah.
mhm.
But
Yeah, like
then,
it's definitely going to be more difficult, but it's definitely possible.
oh, right. And then we're at, nope, all is
Nope.
lost. Yeah. Sorry,
Which
no.
I think is the all is lost, success looks impossible is something that you've probably heard about 100,000 times before. For Katniss, it's when Rue dies. For Reacher, it's when he realizes he's basically the allies that he's been working with have been essentially captured, and he is
Right.
also captured. So,
Hmm.
that looks really difficult.
Yeah. So the physical is high, the social is halfway, environmental also is high.
Yeah, I mean,
Is higher.
these can vary based on the story. I was also using The Martian as an example, which we
Oh yeah.
haven't been talking about. So for that one, that one is like the environmental is enormous throughout.
Right.
But at this point in the story, the Mark Watney's crewmates are also involved, and they
Hmm.
basically mutinied against NASA. So like their jobs are at stake. The military could there's two people in the crew on the military, they could be court-martialed when they return.
Right.
So it's those kinds of risks that would increase really any time in the second or in the second row's worth of
And we
panels.
have low health, low resources, low allies, but more victims.
Usually, yes. And exactly where this lands in your story is going to be specific to your details because like specifically with the Martian, you
Mhm.
can't have Watney get too sick, otherwise it's not even possible. But
Hmm.
for the Hunger Games, like Peeta is super sick when Katniss
Yeah.
finds him, but then she and the gifts that they get are able to bring him back to some degree of health.
Hmm. And then climax, hero battles villain in the action story that's like, you're looking at your book, you've got maybe 10 pages to go. This is where we are.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So this is going to be a one-on-one confrontation, and it's basically a mini version of of everything that we've had before, right? You're going to try to block your hero or make them look possibly blocked like several times, and you're going to force them to improvise and do things that, really cut off other avenues of attack for them. So that's why we've got more money bags, and this is when, the threats are going to be at their highest level
Right.
throughout the story.
Both the physical, the social, the environmental, and even the institutional. And
Yes.
we're at the final. This is it. Like this is day zero.
Yeah, and
Counting
one
down
thing
to
that
hit
we
it.
didn't really
Mhm.
talk about throughout is that you'll see that okay, so here at the end the villain is clear, but prior to this panel, the villain has been more obscured. It's been behind this pane,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
that's because like in the Hunger Games, it's pretty
Yeah.
clear. Like it's not as much of a mystery, but like in Killing Floor, the what the conspiracy was doing and what they wanted was not that clear, but
Mm,
it is clear by the time you get to panel 8. It's not even
right.
clear, who it is or what they want when Reacher is
Right.
arrested in panel 1.
Right.
So it takes it that's very common for that little bit of mystery of like who is the villain and what do they want,
Right.
and it takes the whole
Yeah.
story to kind of get all of those details.
Okay. This is great. So this is the action rhythm. We're going to move on now and talk about another one. So I love this. I'm going to pull up the investigation rhythm and share it. And I'm working on a historical mystery, so I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on here. So walk me
Yes.
through this. Let's start with the legend. What's going on down in the legend?
Okay, so if you're writing mystery, you
Mhm.
already know about suspects, about victims, and about clues.
Mhm.
What I have added is a lens. And what a lens is it's a specific way to look at the clues and the suspects and figure
Mhm.
out how to make sense of what you have and what you might need to
Right.
what you might need to gather.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be something, a lens could be something like a particular motive. The
Mm-hmm.
motive might be inheritance money.
Mm-hmm.
Or a lens could be something like a tactic that the criminal used. Like
Mm-hmm.
if there was a theft and there was an extremely complex lock that only a few people know how to get around. That's a potential lens. A lens could also be something like a place, like the airport terminal where the body was found, or it could be a single clue that is really mysterious or that connects to a lot of other clues. So like in the infographic guide that these things come from, I have a 17 clue mystery, and tire tracks are one
Okay.
lens. Um,
Oh, okay, great.
yes,
So,
yes,
so let's
which I
go with
didn't.
Kernel One, discovery and standard lenses. Like,
Yes,
what do you
so
mean by standard lenses? So,
so
discovery is something's going on. Maybe somebody's
some
died.
kind of crime has been
Yeah.
discovered, and standard lenses. So if you're writing a police procedural,
Okay.
or something where there's any kind of official peace officer who is leading it, they are
Mm-hmm.
going to have a protocol for how to investigate these kinds of things. They are going to have a standard
Okay.
set of items that they're like, okay, well, who is this victim? Who are they connected to? What kinds of conflicts did they have? All of those kinds of things are going to be very standard.
Mm,
That's not going to vary. If you have an amateur sleuth, you have more freedom.
yeah.
But that's the standard lenses means, if you want to follow whatever procedures are relevant for your particular protagonist.
Yeah. So, my story takes place in 1882 London. So, the first thing everybody thinks is, oh, it's a madman. Some madman has done that. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, but I mean, even though those officers, I think, had some kind of protocol, was it one that we would follow today? Of course not. But
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
yes.
Okay. And then we have the lens narrowing. Talk to me a little bit about this.
Yeah, so often in an investigation, somebody looks really guilty. Like here, everybody's focusing on the uncle who has, a history of assault. So your hero is going to, or I guess I should say sleuth. Your sleuth is going to focus on the most promising leads, right? They're not going to look at all these things that are very long shots. They're going to, at times, just put all of their energy into doing what looks most likely, because that is going to make the best use of their time.
Okay. And then we have a stall. We're like, uh-oh, no, maybe not.
Yes.
Who's going to
Yeah,
connect?
and I should say this is like the action where the first panel and the last panel, the discovery and the solution, they always stay in the same place.
Hmm.
And for any kind of mystery, these middle panels, they
Move
can
around.
move all around. There's a
Hmm.
couple um that pairs that don't work together, or they need to be in a specific order, but these can move around. They can be repeated depending on the how your investigation unfolds.
Okay,
Oh,
and then we have a stall, but then we have a stump, plot twist. Uh-oh. And
yeah, so
so the original theory now is not working at all.
exactly. Yeah, so stall means that you're just like you have a couple things that they aren't fitting together, but you don't really have anything new to in you don't have any new direction to
Hmm.
go. It's just like you're kind of hitting a little bit of a dead end. And then stump, it's completely breaking down your theory. And then I actually have two stumps. And so I have stump as panel 4 and then stump
Yeah.
as panel 7. So there's two ways that can happen. One is that you have a clue that twists your plot. I've I call these the plot twisting clues,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That they make your investigator go, "Oh my gosh, I had everything wrong."
Yeah.
Um, but they can also get stumped when, they've got multiple suspects who all
Mhm.
look the same. So there's that.
Okay, so let's go to expand and talk to me about these lines that are dark lines and then dotted lines.
Yeah, so sometimes your investigator will be really confident in what the connections are, and sometimes they'll be like, okay, I think this is possible, but I'm not 100% sure about this. And I
Mm.
should say that this diagram is a really simplified version. If you truly outlined most mysteries, there would be many, many more things on the page, but
Right.
I
Yeah.
had to limit this so that I
Yeah.
could get it all on one page and we could talk about it.
Right. Right.
Yes,
Okay, and then we have reset, and you have lead suspect becomes the victim.
and I
So,
actually missed something.
okay, go ahead.
In the first few, so when we focused, we actually closed one lens, which was the love triangle lens. And
Mm,
then in panel 4, when we got that plot twisting clue, we closed the family lens. So actually,
okay,
we had no more lenses open. So we were just totally at a dead end.
we don't know. Yeah,
We have
could be
nothing
anything.
else to
Yeah,
know. And it's not till we get the next clue that that expands and creates new lenses for us that
right,
we're like, oh, okay, this could come from a different reason. And also one of our suspects from before, the thing that we thought meant A actually means B. So
right, right.
that's what we want. And the thing about plot twisting clues that I found a lot of is one of the reasons that I made this is that it should change your diagram. There should be lenses opening or lenses closing because of those plot twisting clues. Like if
Mhm.
your diagram doesn't change, if all you're doing is changing the lines from, one clue to another suspect or switching out one suspect for another, that is not a plot twist. Um,
Right, right. The plot twist basically breaks down the lens and possibly opens up, says you have to open up new lenses, new ways of looking at things.
exactly.
Okay, so now we
Yes.
have our poor geologist becomes a
Yes.
victim, and
Yes.
that takes the lead suspect out of the game, right? So now
Hmm.
things have changed again. What are the difference in those little boxes down at the bottom between the orange ones and the yellow ones?
Yes. So the orange ones are ones where we know what they mean. The
Okay.
the yellow ones are ones where we're like, okay, I don't know how this connects. I don't know how these all fit in yet.
Mm,
So that's really, really common in any kind of
mhm,
analysis or investigation is like, okay, I know where these puzzle pieces go, but these other pieces, well,
mm. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know yet. So, and then we have the stump in panel 7, three equally likely suspects, right? So now a new suspect has emerged.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes. And
But we have two lenses, it seems, right? We have, oh, could be the pilot and something about escape, or it could be the biz partner, the shipping manager, and a smuggling operation.
yes, but we are more certain that those lenses are the right things.
Right.
We just can't prove how it all came together yet. So
Right. Or which
that's
one is the actual, yeah, the which
we
one is,
don't know who is the mastermind and who's the helper or who's,
yeah,
innocent and just having a
yeah,
really bad luck.
right. Great. And then we have the puzzle solved. It all comes together. The lines are all clear. Yeah, which we love.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. Let's just look quickly at romance. So this is really interesting. Let's talk about romance.
Yes.
Walk us through the legend. So we have the primary hero and the love interest.
Yes. So our primary hero is yellow heart, blue shell, and then
Mhm.
our love interest is blue heart, light blue shell.
Okay.
And those shells are sort of their defense mechanisms or coping strategy because they've got some kind of internal flaw where, they've got some kind of misbelief about the world that is, you know, really causing problems in their life and making
Mhm.
it so that they can't have this meaningful long-term relationship.
Okay. And then we have attraction and adhesion. So we have that like
Hmm.
initial force, and then we have them staying together.
Yes.
External
So attraction
forces.
is, obviously the physical, but also the appreciation for, shared interests or shared experiences or things like appreciating that other person's personality. And so those are things that like pull them together. And the adhesion is the situation or container that prevents your heroes from leaving and running away when things get difficult. So in the example in the infographic guide, it's a reality TV shooting situation where they've like signed contracts, so they can't leave and they're forced to interact on a daily basis.
Or a contemporary romance that takes place at work and they need the job, or totally.
Yes, exactly. There's something that prevents them from leaving, and a lot of times a way to enhance your story is to strengthen that container. So especially when it if your readers are going to be like, why aren't they just leaving? You need to strengthen the adhesion.
Oh, I love that. That's such a good point. So let's talk about connection deepens and challenges grow. So obviously we've got our thermometers for physical intimacy way up.
Yes.
And the life integration, it seems like, these guys want to be together.
Well, that's life integration is about like how much is their day-to-day life entwined and like how much do they rely on each other. That's kind of what I was going for, that those signs of emotional intimacy and closeness that are not sexual attraction. They're things that you would have with any person who was a good
meeting
friend.
The parents. Love that. Okay. And then we have challenges grow, right? This is where things are not so easy. So we have the no loan, the TV job, the producers here when it comes to the reality TV. And then everything falls apart. Things might not work out. It seems like they're probably not going to be together.
Yes. Yeah. So usually that's a breakup. But so the challenges grow. So the adhesion is still there, but often all of those challenges cause the adhesion to break down, or there's stuff that happens here where they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you did that. As soon as I get out of this, I'm out. So that's what those are building towards, because eventually we need them to come together in a way that does not rely on outside forces. You can nudge them. That's what those little, nudges are, the people that remind them what they really want, but they have to make that choice themselves.
Okay. And so here we are now. They must choose love. We have the high physical intimacy, high life integration. They're still on two different.
Yes, because they've got to take the leap, right? They have to put themselves out there. They have to make themselves vulnerable in order to, like, that is what all good relationships are based on, is that vulnerability. So they've got to cross that chasm and, bare their souls in order to get to their happily ever after.
I love that. This is great. So Lori, you mentioned a guide. You have a guide that folks can get that walks through this?
Yes. So it's the infographic guide to Standout plots, and you can get it from my website.
Okay, great. I'll put the link to that in the show notes, and people will be able to go and grab that. And you can find out more about Lori at loripuma.com, right?
That's true.
Okay, so great. Thanks so much for sharing this with me. This has been fascinating. I absolutely love it.
Yay. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so glad.
Thanks so much for hanging out with me today and for listening all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Resilient Writers Radio Show. While you're here, I would really appreciate it if you'd consider leaving a rating and review of the show. You can do that in whatever app you're using to listen to the show right now, and it just takes a few minutes. Your ratings and reviews tell the podcast algorithm gods that yes, this is a great show. Definitely recommend it to other writers. And that will help us reach new listeners who might need a boost in their writing lives today as well. So please take a moment and leave a review. I'd really appreciate it, and I promise to read every single one. Thank you so much.